Hi, beautiful souls. Welcome to a new episode. Today, I want to talk about something that I get asked a lot. One is, how do I discover my style, or how do I create my art style? And two, how do you decide on what to create for a body of work, an exhibition, or just for yourself? I've been doing this for over a decade, and this is the way that they have taught us to create a body of work in art school. But I've also picked up along the way methods from artists that inspire me, my community, other coaches, and just my own system of dreaming, creating, planning, and executing. Now, before we jump into the specifics of how to create a body of work, figuring out what you want to create and really sticking to it, I want to let you know that no matter what you dream up, it's going to be a little bit different, and that's okay. That's the magic of art. Part of the reason why we are creatives is to discover something new, to surprise ourselves, and to really be carried away by our medium, by our own ideas, or unexpected twists, turns, and even mistakes that can pop up along the way. Many artists say that the mistakes are really where the magic happens, the things that we can't fully control, the things that kind of pop out. Maybe we accidentally slid our brush the wrong way, and it led to a brand new discovery. Those are some of the magical things that can happen in the art making process. Calibri and I are sitting outside today, so you are going to hear some birds and things, because that's what inspires me. I'm actually out here with a sketchbook right now that's drying, and I have a little palette with me and a little set of brushes that I use just to doodle and to brainstorm and to figure out what it is that I'm doing. I have 2 other exhibitions, actually 3, one of which I just created a body of work for, and I'm about to ship it. But I have 2 other shows, and I have a vague idea of what I want to do for them. And I'm sitting out here in nature, figuring out exactly what it is that I will create. And so I thought I would share some of my brainstorming process in order to help you figure out what you want to make next. Now, this is not something super complicated. My biggest advice is to grab a journal or notebook, or just a piece of paper, and just write down some of the things that you're currently thinking about. Early on in my career, I painted a lot about my childhood, about growing up in Russia, so my work was reflective of sort of that moody, nostalgic vibe that I was experiencing emotionally. So I was drawn to a lot of deep blues and kind of magical purples and mystical colors that were dreamy and otherworldly at the same time. Later on, I was inspired by my environment, and I was exploring the idea of home and coziness and light. So the feelings of warmth, belonging, just being really, really super cozy, that's what I focused on. So maybe taking a piece of paper and writing down some emotions that you're currently exploring or experiencing, because art can be a really healing thing. Or also, if you are someone who's driven by political events or has a really strong passion for a specific cause, such as women's rights or diversity and inclusion, that is something you can also write down. Whatever's on your mind right now is okay. For me, I use my art to sort of escape, and in the next few exhibitions, I'm going to be focusing on ways of healing, probably focusing on nature or things that are a little bit more magical. If you're familiar with my paintings, I love to turn up the color, I love to make it otherworldly and almost like a fairy tale in a way, so it's not necessarily realistic or representative of what I'm actually painting. So for you, it might be the opposite. You might be really into monochromatic colors and things that are very subtle and soft, or maybe you're into pastels. So just honor whatever it is that is inspiring to you at this moment in your life. And there's no wrong answer. Now, one thing I will say though is that you will want to have a consistent vibe throughout this body of work if you are showing it professionally in a gallery setting or submitting it for opportunities. This isn't to say that you can't make whatever you want to. I do encourage exploration and just randomness, all play, fun in your studio. But if you are to exhibit, sell, and showcase your work, you want to have a consistent thread in this body of work. So maybe thinking of the theme, the color, the materials, making sure everything is really cohesive and consistent. Doesn't mean that you have to paint the same thing over and over again, but just in general, the gist of what you are trying to say should be reflected in each piece of that body of work. And this is actually a wonderful way to start exploring your style if you feel like you don't have a style yet. The style is just something we develop after repetition. So the more you create, the easier you'll start to pick up on your style. And I also want to encourage you, it doesn't have to be a very stylistic thing. So for example, I don't know what the proper term for my style is. I know that it's expressive, kind of a little bit impressionistic, but I'm more like expressionism. And I didn't decide to paint this way. I didn't say this is going to be my style, I'm going to paint in this style. It happened because I was making tons of art over the years, and the way that my work looks is a result of that. It's the result of the way I hold my brush, the way I hold my pencil, and it's not something that you should force. Just let whatever creations come out, and the more you do it, the more consistent they're going to become, and the more you're going to be able to control the way you create, and that is how you're going to end up with a creative style. So it's not something that you have to force. You don't have to make work that's like all dots or cubism. You can if that's what you feel called to do, but a style is just really the way that your work looks that's specific to you. It might be your color palette or lack of color. It might be hyperrealism or very abstracted or very expressive. And it's just the way you naturally create. Learning to finesse it, polish it, and push it will help you. Now, the next thing I do is after I write down some of these themes or emotions, like for example, for this next show I'm preparing for, I want to focus on nature healing and kind of escaping in the wilderness. As I'm sitting out here just observing these birds fighting and yelling, you'll hear them in the background. And the next thing I want to do is I want to see okay, what do these paintings look like? When I close my eyes, I usually just take a moment, I breathe, and I ask God, show me what you want me to create. And usually I'll get a picture in my head. It's very vague. Maybe I'll see a lot of color or a lot of flowers or a campsite. I'll see some kind of symbolism to help guide me in that direction. So this is why it's important. Just take a few minutes each day to listen, to see what's in your mind's eye, to see what the divine, what source is showing you to create next in your life and in your art. And then from that, when I get a vision in my head, I usually make some thumbnails. Maybe I'll go down a rabbit hole on Pinterest or the internet or pick up some art books and see artists that I admire, or maybe just search for art that has the specific color, specific theme. For example, I'm a big fan of Peter Doig, so I might go down a Peter Doig rabbit hole later on and see how he has handled the landscape and the mystical and this magical realism that he creates. That's actually a good one. I'm going to write that down. I'm going to research magical realism. Sometimes our brains are really smart, so they will always like to answer the question we give us. So you can actually ask yourself before bed, what should I create next? Or what should my next body of work be about? And your brain will give you the answer. So that's really, really cool. You can ask before bed, you can journal before bed, or first thing in the morning where your brain is in that sleepy, dreamy state. The next thing I'll do is continue researching and deciding on the materials that I want to use. Maybe I want to make 20 large oil paintings with canvases, or maybe it's a series of drawings. And then I'll commit to a few groups of different sizes. So maybe I want to have 5 very big paintings and 10 medium ones, and maybe 20 small works on paper or sketches. So that's the gist of it. And then I get to work. And the thing I want to share with you is that not everything, even though I planned this, even though I sketched out the thumbnail and did my research, doesn't mean that every single one of these paintings that I create will work out. So that's why it's best to make extra. It's best to just keep creating until the deadline and then selecting what is your favorite, or having the gallery select their favorites, whatever works for you. And that way you have options. You also get practice and you work on your style as you create more and more. So I hope that was helpful. I'm so excited to hear about what you are making in the studio. Let me know if you have any other questions about brainstorming a new body of work, or figuring out your creative style, let me know in the comments. I would love to tackle them in upcoming videos. And remember, progress, not perfection. The more you show up and create, the better you're going to be, and the more you're going to get clarity on what you create next. And a good, solid body of work is usually from 10 to 15 pieces. For my solo show, I'm planning on making 15 to 20 pieces, just to give you an idea of how much we need to be creating. So let's get going, make some sketches, do some Google searches, go down a rabbit hole, and enjoy the explorative process of discovering your next body of work. I love you so much. Thanks for watching.